Davante Adams has officially requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders as of October 1st, 2024, and the Raiders might not trade him, but the Raiders have made it clear that they could trade him for a second round pick and additional compensation. They are willing to do so. They are not going to hold Adams hostage. Adams could go to another team. He could stay there. Today's video is about what teams he could go to, what they could look like, and what the situation is going to be going forward for Adams. I'm going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers because over the offseason, they made it clear they are looking for receivers. They wanted to be in the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. They were really close to getting him. There was almost a trade that went through, but Ayuk decided to stay in San Francisco and take the deal that they offered him in the first place, and that's that. But the Steelers could still be in this market. They're still being talked about as a potential trade destination. This team is 3-1. They have money to spend. They have a lot of guys on rookie deals. They have serious money to spend. They're not spending much money at quarterback, and they're mostly spending the money on the defense. If there was a team to make a move and say, well, we feel like we're in playoff contention, we could go get a guy right now to help George Pickens, Justin Fields, and this running game, let's go get Davante Adams. I don't necessarily think they'll make this deal. This team's remained conservative. Getting Brandon Ayuk made more sense for this team long-term wise as well because he's younger and he's currently making less money. It is a lot of money Brandon Ayuk is making. But yeah, I do like the Steelers fit though. Him right next to Pickens would be a match made in heaven. I just don't know if the Steelers decide to pull the trigger on a trade like this. We're going to stay in the AFC North and talk about the Baltimore Ravens because everyone's talking about this. I mean, Lamar has never had a receiver anywhere near the caliber of Davante Adams. He's never really had a true X receiver either. If there was a moment for them to go get a receiver, it's now. This team is in Super Bowl contention. Derrick Henry is not getting any younger. He's probably got a year left in him. And it's astonishing he is as good as he is at the age he is. This team has offensive line issues, but they desperately need to improve the passing game. Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers are really good. They've spent a lot of resources there. But adding Adams to that core would help everyone involved. Mark Andrews is on pace for 25 catches this year. Likely he's been out of the receiving game since week 1. This team has just been heavy run offense, and that is not going to work into their favor in the playoffs, and they've had a history of knowing that. Their defense is still really good. If there was a moment to go get a receiver, it is right now. They're going to probably have to open some money up, but a second-round pick and like a fourth, a fifth, that is something this team can pull off. This team has so many chances to get this right around Lamar, and this might be one of the last times with this core that they have. I think if you're the Ravens, you have to make this move now. I'm going to throw a random team in here because I don't think they make the move, and I don't know if they have the money to make the move, but I'm going to throw in the Chargers because it's very clear that their offense is stagnant right now. It's very clear Justin Herbert is frustrated with the lack of receiving options this team has. Their running game has slowed down. They are 2-2. This is a decent team. They're overplaying. They're playing better than the roster they have. But going to get Adams to pair with Justin Herbert for at least a year or two. Adams is staying in his home state. He's playing with a really good quarterback. I wouldn't hate it. Harbaugh does run heavy offense, and he doesn't like bringing in a lot of outside people, making splashy moves like that. But if you were to appease Herbert and find a guy that could really, really open up this passing game, Adams is the right move to make. I know they got rid of Keenan Allen over the offseason, but Keenan's older than that. Keenan's had more injuries than Adams. And Keenan, I think, is about to be a free agent. So if there was a time to go make a move for Adams, it'd be now. Okay, we're moving on in the AFC West. Kansas City Chiefs, because this team has been talked about a lot. I've seen a lot of Instagram comment sections say, oh, yeah, he's already a Kansas City Chief. It's not realistic. I'll already say that because Mark Davis would rather shave his head bald and give up on all the haircuts than just say, oh, yeah, we'll trade him to our number one rival in recent memory. Like, the Chiefs are the enemy of the AFC West. They're the enemy of the NFL to a lot of people. But I don't think it happens. But if it were, that would be awesome. Adams and Mahomes, we've seen what he's like with a superstar quarterback. We've seen what he's like with a good quarterback, above average quarterback in Carr. I think it would be a good fit. I think if the Chiefs were to do it, like I keep saying, if there was a time to do it, it'd be now. But the Chiefs and the Ravens feel like the two teams that if they had to make a move, do it now. Because the Chiefs are going to miss Rashee Rice for at least 4 weeks. That has already been said. He won't be out for the year. Like, good for them. Good for Rashee. But they need a receiver. Like, they've already had receiving issues. Mahomes is not throwing that well. I know Reed doesn't like open up the playbook in the regular season. That is something he's done over the last few years. But it's not looking good outside of that. You're asking Kelsey and Xavier to do things that I don't know if they're capable of doing at this point in the passing game. And you don't have Pacheco for another 6-7 weeks. You have to make a move. And I feel like Adams would be the right move for them. We're moving on to the NFC. There is one team I left out in the AFC. I'll talk about them at the end of the video. But I want to talk about the Cowboys because, again, another unrealistic team because of how the team – actually, it's how the Cowboys are ran. They like their guys. I just did a whole video about the Cowboys and a lot of their issues. I didn't even talk about the offensive issues. But it's clear. The Cowboys don't like going to get outside help. And there are a lot of talks Cowboys fans have already about going to get Amari Cooper. There were talks earlier in the year about getting Davante Adams from Cowboys fans. And these are fans because we know the front office would never make a move like that. For that to happen, they'd have to admit that they made mistakes over the last few years, that they haven't done enough, and that's just not Jerry. Jerry does not like getting guys that aren't someone he drafted or, saved their career. If I were the Cowboys, though, I'd think about this move. You have the money in the regular season right now. You don't have to spend a lot to get rid of him in the offseason if it doesn't work out. You don't have to do a lot in the offseason to retool the money for him. This contract is very different now. He is not the big cap hit that he was before. The other thing to note is the Cowboys don't have anyone to create on the perimeter outside of CD right now. They have no one. It is Ferguson in the center of the field as a tight end, but Brandon Cooks can't get open, and now he has an infection in his knee. That came out today. And Tolbert and Brooks have played some of the most lazy football you will see from receivers in the league outside of that end of Ravens game. Like, they won't play Ryan Flournoy, and Turpin barely gets any reps. If there was a time to get a receiver, again, if there was a time, it would be now. Because Adams and CD and Ferguson with Dak, it would help these other receivers too. This team has no run game. But the other thing to note too with the Cowboys is their Super Bowl window this year is closed. They are not in contention. So if they were to make a move, it'd be saying, we want to go make a Super Bowl, but they can't. They don't have the defense for it. They have too many injuries. They don't have the offensive line for it. We'll see. But the Cowboys would be a scenario. There's something that a lot of people have been talking about. When I was thinking about this video and what teams I would introduce, the Lions came into my head. And Brett Coleman's already talked about it. But that's a scenario that would be fun. And I don't know how many sources Brett has, but he said that for a reason. And it's because the Lions could use another receiver. Jamison Williams has really come into his own this year. He looks great. He is a great fit in this offense. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's slowed down a little bit this year, but that's because all offenses have, and all passing offenses have, actually. And he still looks really good, though. Sam Laporta's also slowed down a bit, but if there was a time to say Super Bowl window, I'm only adding teams with Super Bowl windows here. A lot, or saying that if it's time. It'd be the Lions. I'd love this move. They have cap space. They have the resources to do it. They really, really want to go win. They just made their first, NFC championship in however long last year. This defense, it has some issues, but I feel like it's good enough to make a Super Bowl. And if it's time for the offense to say, let's go get one more guy, I'd love for this move to happen because they have the receivers, they have the running game, they have the offensive line. Goff has looked really good. I would love this move so much if the Lions went out and got Davante Adams. Okay, so Adam Schefter reported this morning about how Adams has actually said that he prefers the Saints and the Jets if they were to call. And there's already rumors that the Saints have been interested, that they said they wouldn't do it for a second-round pick, they'd do it for a third. And that is interesting to see because the Saints, going into the year, were not expected to be that good whatsoever just because of how bad they played last year. But this team's coaching is way better. This team is now 2-2 despite starting 2-0 and absolutely shredding the Panthers and Cowboys. But I think there's a lot to like about this Panthers roster still. They've just played against two good defenses or teams that know how to play against them. And if I were the Saints, I would say, well, Derek Carr played really good with Adams. And Chris Olave is one of our main guys right now and we just want to see more out of him. And I feel like you get that if you add Adams. Like, Adams is such a piece that would open up offenses across the league. You add him, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave in an offense. That offense is deadly. Seriously deadly. They can get as creative as they want. I feel like Adams would be the missing piece for this offense. And the sky's the limit because this defense has been one of the best defenses and most efficient defenses in the NFL for a while. And they haven't slowed down very much. They forced the Falcons into just field goals last week. They made Hurts have one of the worst. Actually, I wouldn't say Hurts was that bad, but they slowed down Hurts for like 3.5 quarters 2 weeks ago. I really would like if the Saints got him. And the final like serious team, and I don't consider the Chargers a serious team. I just added them in there. Is the Jets. Everyone's talking about the Jets. Everyone's talking about the Jets, and he named the Jets. If there was, the guy that has been connected to the Jets outside of Rodgers in the last 2.5 years, it's Davante Adams because the connection's there with Rodgers, the history's there with Rodgers. This is last year they had so many former Packers on that team. I think if you were the Jets, I think you say to yourself, we aren't seeing a lot from Garrett Wilson. It's not Garrett Wilson's fault. It's Nathaniel Hackett's fault. We're not seeing a lot from this offense. Brees Hall is struggling because of our poor run design and offensive line. Garrett Wilson needs more. Tyler Conklin needs more. Alan Lazard's been our receiver right now. I've been our main receiver right now because we're just not being able to produce as much passing wise. I think you say to yourselves, all right, let's go get our guy. There are other teams I thought of, and there are other teams being talked about. The Commanders for one, but I don't think that's a realistic solution that they should do. It could happen. If I was to give a team that I think it's going to happen to, it's obviously the Jets. I feel like that's the feeling across the league. If there was a team I wanted it to happen for, the Ravens. And I know I've already made it clear I'm a Cowboys fan, but we don't deserve this. We aren't going to do this. And the Ravens do. The Ravens organization has done a lot, and this is the final move I feel like could put them in real like favorite contention. But yeah, I'm sorry, Raiders fans. This is probably a tough situation. This could lead to some scary noise about Antonio Pierce because of, liking that Instagram post, because of the toxicity that's been connected with them too recently. There's weird feelings all around. But yeah, this is basically what I think is going to happen and what my thoughts are for each team that's involved. I would add more teams, but I wouldn't want to waste y'all's time. I know I already feel like I wasted y'all's time with the Chargers one. I just like that move. This is Son of a Sports. I'll see y'all next time.